Oh la la. Is this thing working? I need to check on the stream because there's a delay. Give me a second here. Oh yeah, it's working. Oh my god, this is wonderful. I need to get to my seat first. Kaimak, come on. Come here, boy. This is the life. Oh yeah. Come on, boy, it's a Sunday. Ever heard of a lazy Sunday? Come on. Come here, boy. Here you go. I got something for you. Not this is not for you. Come here. There you go. There you go, boy. There you go, boy. Good boy. Now get out of here. I got a show to do. Get out of here. Oh, here. Go. Go fetch. There you go. Oh, yeah. Hello. Hello there. Of course, I'm streaming. I forgot about that. This is for me. You understand? Okay. I just need a sip of this first before starting. This is great. I know nobody's probably watching, but I don't care. It will get archived anyway. Get out of there. Over here. I need a sip of my coffee. There you go. Sorry for starting late, but it's first time doing this, so we have technical shenanigans. I hope I just gotta make sure, that I'm actually being heard. Let's see here. Oh yeah, there you go. All right, before I start, I need to eat something. I haven't eaten in hours, so I need to try some of these. Hey, can you hold this for me? No? Okay. Because where I am right now in Spain, we have tapas, yeah? So apparently this is how they eat here. I don't know why, but you gotta use one of these. Is it like this? Okay. And you do like this, see? And you pick up the jamon, it's the ham, see? Oh. Here, boy, you want? And you do like this. Oh. Very good. But now let's get to business. Because this is the Cyber News Show. This is okay, yeah. This is a Cyber News Show. Yeah, every YouTuber's got to do a Cyber News Show. So I know I had a read on a few things here. Let me see. It's already going wonderful. Man, just leave me alone for now. Come on, Kaimak. Okay, my computer actually works. So yeah, I'm stumbled upon a person in the recent weeks, I guess, because I left Poland and now I'm here in Spain, and it is very wonderful. I gotta say, so far it is definitely better weather, better food, and I don't get attacked online. So with lies, so that's already a plus. But I'm here to talk about cyber, and I stumbled upon a person who recently became an AI expert, someone from my family. But actually, AI has been very predominant in the cybersecurity field, I have to say, in the recent years, and I even saw it in my previous job when we were considering some of the implementation of AI, and also when we had the general purpose AI, to make chatbots, because apparently that's the only thing we do with AI in the companies, yeah. But anyway, I digress. In the description on the YouTube, at least, because I had to set it up everything on the last minute. Actually, I was reading some articles throughout this week, and what are you doing, man? You got scared with my voice? What? Just don't bark, okay? I gotta do this professionally. All right. So I was reading some articles, and I saw that there's definitely a rampant use of AI in cybersecurity, not only for enterprise grade tools, yeah, in companies, but also by attackers, even script kiddies, yeah, which is one of the articles I'll mention later on. So I gotta say, I gotta start with something slightly uncomfortable, and it's not me eating all of this food at once, jugging like the other YouTubers I see online. No, I'm talking about a vulnerability in the Linux kernel. Oh my god, what a new. It's a new, but it has been sitting there for almost a decade. Actually, 9 years, if I understood correctly from the article, and it was discovered in an hour. And obviously, the point here is that it was not discovered by a senior. I just gotta make sure this is running. It was not discovered, by a senior researcher or something like that. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Okay. I just gotta make sure. Leave it open too. It was not discovered by a senior researcher. It was discovered by AI, exactly, by artificial intelligence, or with a tool based on artificial intelligence. So this is an article from Dark Reading. It's one of my favorite websites from way back when, in 2006. As I saw, it is 2026, so it has been 20 years actually. So happy anniversary or happy birthday, Dark Reading. So it was an article called AI Assisted Software Scan Finds Linux Bug. And honestly, um, we were talking about worms back then and talking about early phishing campaigns, basic exploits, and that felt advanced. But now, as I see from these articles, and even comparing to the pen tests, external pen tests, and even internal ones that I saw in different companies I worked at, the game has changed definitely. So, we're talking about now automated tools and machines finding these vulnerabilities. Yeah, it's just not just attackers. Yeah, so it's actually systems that are assisting in building these attacks. So as we go through some of these news, I want you to keep something in mind. If something like that has stayed hidden for 9 years, can you imagine how many other vulnerabilities are in your system or in the enterprises right now? Just waiting for the right tool to find them. Because today it seems we will not be able to, because we always have to handle with very complicated and bureaucratic processes in all these companies we work at, so maybe we won't find them. But it is definitely an unsurmountable and almost impossible task. But we're talking about the future here. Yeah, we're talking about what's already happening. So let's break down this case. I'm opening here the article. So let's actually explain what this means, this article. It will be in the description, you can check it later, what it means in practical terms. So this is basically what we call a privilege escalation vulnerability. So if you're already in a system, maybe you'll have a low privileged account. This type of bug lets you climb up to a root user, let's say. And in Linux, I think everybody who's in IT, maybe not everyone that's in IT, knows when you have root in Linux, you have the total control. You can, modify system files, you can install persistent mechanisms, you can disable security controls. Effectively, you will own the whole machine, yes? And what's interesting here is not just what the vulnerability does, but how it exists, because bugs like these actually usually come from very small mistakes. They are from incorrect assumptions about memory or unsafe copying of data or edge cases that are not even considered. So traditionally, these issues, these bugs, essentially, they require deep code review to be found, or reverse engineering with tools like Hydra or either Pro. And most importantly, you need resources. The most important one, time, yes, and personnel as well, I would add. So basically, AI is changing everything. Yeah, it's changing the game. So what AI changes is not the nature of the bug, but it changes the speed at which we can find this. Yeah, instead of manually reviewing thousands of lines of code, now with AI we can just scan patterns, we can identify anomalies, we can highlight risky logic paths almost instantly, I would say. So I think the uncomfortable truth is that the vulnerability wasn't in fact invisible, it was just buried. Meaning that when it's buried, it definitely means that it's no longer safe. Yeah. So I'll be honest here. When I first started reading about vulnerabilities years ago, I used to assume that if something hadn't been found yet, it was probably too obscure to matter. But given this news and given the rampant use of AI, definitely, I look at it differently, because if it hasn't been found yet, we just maybe need to wait for better tools, and we have them now. Yes. So let's make this real. Actually, let's imagine a company running old or older Linux servers, internal services that nobody wants to touch, legacy applications that just work. Yeah. So this vulnerability is just sitting there. There are no alerts, no logs, nothing obvious. Yeah. Then someone just runs an AI-assisted scan, for example, an e-turn. Yeah. And within hours, the vulnerability is identified. There is a POC, a proof of concept, that is created. An exploitation becomes possible, etc. So this is definitely the shift that we are seeing. We are moving from a manual discover to an automated discovery, and I would say probably at scale. Yeah. Now I think finding the vulnerability is one thing. Understanding it, I think that's where things get really interesting, and that's actually what brings me to the second article I have, which is about the reverse engineering with AI on a high severity GitHub bug. So, reverse engineering really answers one question. What this code, yeah, that we're looking at really does? And where can it fail? And it's not easy, it requires experience. That's why, by the way, reverse engineering is not a level, how do you say it? Entry-level job, yeah? Because apparently nowadays there's a lot of roles that are being filled by people who haven't even began or even apt to be a help desk, work at help desk. So let's leave it at that. So it's not easy because it requires experience, it requires a lot of patience, I would say, and a lot of trial and error. And you might use things like fuzzing tools, for example, or CodeQL. Now just imagine AI, layering AI on top of that process. Yeah. So with AI, probably could follow the logic automatically. It could detect unsafe assumptions. Maybe definitely suggest where vulnerabilities might exist. For example, just imagine this generic example. A function expects a clean input, yeah, but under certain edge cases, it might fail. A human might miss it. Why? Because obviously there's a lot of work to be done. The human gets tired, etc. But AI doesn't get tired, and it's definitely exploring all possibilities. Yeah. And if you ever tried, manually trace, a complex code base, or even when you are in the trenches doing any other type of job that usually it's operations-wise, definitely you'll know that it'll be easy to miss something because you lose the context. As I said, you get tired, and definitely you'll start assuming instead of verifying every nook and cranny. Yeah, and obviously AI doesn't do that. That's where the gap starts to appear. So we are moving from manual expertise, I think you can see my hand, to an assisted intelligence or to a scalable analysis. Yeah. And once it becomes scalable, I think that it becomes a completely different problem. Yeah, because now it's not about whether vulnerabilities exist, but it's about how quickly they can be found, yeah, and understood. And once you understood, or understand rather, a vulnerability faster, you can exploit it faster. Yes. And that's actually leading to the third thing I wanted to share, which was an interview I saw. This was covered also by dark reading. No, I do not only read dark reading, but I haven't checked news sites for a long time. It's been some years because I was trying to work on my personal life, and I would say I was slash successful, unsuccessful, 50-50%. But I digress. I check news sites, and it seems like there's a lot of fodder nowadays. Yeah, there's not really much of a substance, if you know what I mean. So I think I'll just stick with the oldies for now. Yeah. So definitely dark reading is a good resource. And there was an interview to some attendee. I don't know much about him. I saw that he's a reporter, I believe, um, for dark reading, or the person who was interviewing was from dark reading, because the person liked video games. Imagine that, a person who likes video games and knows about cybersecurity, or is at least within the cybersecurity field. You can actually like other things and be working in cybersecurity after all. Who would have thought, huh? But anyway, basically in this interview, which was titled, the article was titled something like "Human versus AI Debates Shape." Yeah, because it was the conference, exactly, the RSAC, the RSAC. Yeah, 2026 cybersecurity trends. By the name of this conference, it might not mean much, but you can get something out of something all the time. Yeah, you know, just because a thing was a completely, or felt like a completely waste of time, it doesn't mean you didn't take anything from it. There's always something you take from something you attend to. And one thing that I did find interesting in that piece was the the fact that this wasn't just about a technical perspective, yeah, because this person clearly, is writing about cybersecurity, but obviously, at least my first impression is not very technical, because this discussion wasn't really about tools, it was about people, because one side was defending or saying that AI helps defenders rather. I think it does. I mean, we have, for example, in my previous job, we had a CrowdStrike Falcon. I've seen in the past Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. I've seen, many other EDR tools as well. But attackers have other tools, and they are definitely more. They are plenty, and they have much more resources, or many more resources, and fewer constraints too. Normally, I'm talking about the enterprise constraints, meaning the micromanagement and the management level people. And so in cybersecurity, actually, sometimes speed beats process. Not every time, because sometimes you do need to be thorough, and you do need to have methodology and take your time, but usually speed does beat process. Now, I hope this is because I want to make sure. People who adapt to tools, and people, there are two groups of people. I see myself as someone who adapts. Yeah, and in this case of AI, it was something very interesting at the time. When I was studying, I was attending a master's degree. Fortunately, I got out of it in time. And, I started using AI, learning about the use of AI and many different AIs, and very recently even for doing stupid videos. But there are people who adapt to tools, and there are the people who resist to them. Normally, we call the first group the early adopters, and sometimes I think we call the second group the laggards. Yeah. So that gap is becoming massive over time. Yeah, we don't expect a baker to become a software engineer in a year, like in his app. But cybersecurity is different. Tools evolve faster than people. I don't think that AI is replacing us. I think that AI is a tool, and someone using AI will replace someone who doesn't use AI. It's very simple. And that actually leads me to the final article, and I'm actually plowing rather through this thing. I thought it would be an hour. I guess I don't have anyone, to debate these things, given that nobody talks to me now. but but anyway, that's actually the most interesting article of the four, because I don't want to go through 10 articles like in other podcasts and say a bunch of mumbo jumbo that doesn't matter. Kaimak, please do not jump to the pool. I want to use it afterwards. Thank you very much. It was from The Verge. It's another, not very technical, not very technically deep, let's say, but it's sometimes has very interesting topics and tackles on different interesting subjects, let's say, and sometimes they are tech related. Yeah. So this was about the attack of the killer script kiddies. It's based on the attack of the killer tomatoes. I really like that movie. So it was saying that Man, what are you doing? Oh, is this Conguito's doll? So AI is definitely lowering the barrier to entry, I think. If you combine it with tools like Metasploit and other tools that are like frameworks that are easier to use because they are menu based, you know, skill is no longer required. Yeah, like I remember back in the day, or is no longer a barrier. At least like back in the day, I remember I didn't know I was considered a script kiddie, but I was using all of these tools, and definitely, it was easy because also it was a different time. The internet wasn't as protected, wasn't as safe. We didn't have as many security or cybersecurity mechanisms as we have now. The illiteracy was bigger, or literacy. It's one word or the other. I forget. So definitely, you know, it was, there were different times. Now people are more aware. There's a bigger awareness, even on not only IT but cybersecurity. And as such, definitely the skill required to perform those attacks back then was also low, but now it's even lower, I would say. And I think the skill is no longer the barrier. The intent is, and that changes everything. And this is something I've been thinking about recently, because I see people experimenting with these tools, uh, and they are moving ahead, like me when I'm creating my videos or I'm taking action into, you know, creating things or wanting to do things. These are people are moving ahead. The ones who are waiting and just talking and drinking beers every day in a bar are the ones that are falling behind. So let's connect everything then with all of these articles. AI finds faster, AI understands faster, and AI lowers skill barriers. So the gap between discovery and exploitation is collapsing. And when that gap disappears, my friends, we are no longer defending against humans. We are defending against the Skynet. Oh, yeah, we are defending against the machines. And maybe, this is the biggest shift of all. Back then in 2006, reading dark reading, we were, reacting. We were anticipating. We were, thinking, wishful thinking. We were thinking future in terms of futurism, about all this. Now we are racing. This is a race. And now cybersecurity, cybersecurity used to be a now knowledge, and now is definitely about speed. I think that doing certifications and having a huge memory bank inside of your brain about every single aspect and detail about how an IPsec frame is built doesn't really matter anymore. What matters is how you find this information at the point of your fingertips, or at your fingertips rather, that's the term, and how fast you are finding that information. But the real question is, can you adapt fast enough? I think we need to learn a lot. It's a very big task for all of us IT professionals in general, even I would say, but definitely in cybersecurity. But these articles that I read this week and that I'm sharing in the description really shows that the talks about eliminating AI, or even what we see in USA, where actually tech is born and tech was invented, um, and where the most cybersecurity was invented. Not only we got Israel too. Let's just leave politics for some other time. Um, Definitely there we see the rampant use of AI, and we also saw some directives and some orders, yeah, where we are seeing obviously the rampant, I don't know what to call it, like the use or like the implementation of AI with all those factories or whatever you want to call it. I forget now, like the data centers. That's the word. Like the data centers, all this being built. So definitely AI is here to stay. And so for me, I'm gonna use AI. I'm gonna keep using AI to make this silly, graphic that you see on the screen, pretending that I'm in Vice City. I'm gonna also use AI to aid me in my English tutoring license, and to create materials to be better tailored to each student or each classroom. I'm gonna use AI to make interesting and creative videos. I'm gonna use AI in my actual cybersecurity job, which is working through my or under my company for other clients, or other companies. to be actually able to work, which I wasn't able in these last 10 years. And so, definitely, AI now is part of my life. And I think it should be part of your life too. Either if you are a technical person, either if you are an average Joe, which you are playing, or if you are a fucking retard. And I think this is a very